Hello Libra friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Libra September 2021 Astrology Must Knows. Definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com where you can interface with all of the free goodies that I make for you each month to help you make the most of the starry possibilities and live your best life. And if you'd love to be an astrologer as your profession or just to help yourself, your self-development, your family, your friends, you will love my Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. If you think I go into a lot of details in the videos and the podcasts and the horoscopes that are written, you will be very surprised to see how much detail I go to in that course. So you can see it at lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. And I also have free courses at my school that you can check out while you're there. So what's going on this month? We've got two things for Libras to know to make the most of this video. The first is that this is for you if Libra is your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon, if it's your Mercury, your Venus, your Mars, whatever you're watching for, this is for you if Libra is one of those placements. The next thing to know is if you're a late degree Libra. So we'll say the later late degree Libras, especially towards the end there, around October 15th through the rest of the sign, or around 24 or 25 degrees through the rest of the sign. Then I also suggest that you watch my Scorpio horoscope. You will have a more complete picture of your astrological view if you're a very late degree placement by watching those two videos, okay, Libra and Scorpio. Okay, so the first major must know on our list, I'm calling, well, I'll get to what the theme of this month is in a second, but the first major must know is that the open stars that we've had since around July 7th are coming to a close here in early September, okay? So open stars that we still have a little bit of lingering energy at the beginning of September is when there's good forward movement. It's a good time to set your boat out. But you know, when your creative babies and your projects and your moves and clarity and contracts and things like that. But because it's so soon into September that the tides start shifting, if you're not completely sure about your project, if it needs to be tweaked, if you're not getting that feeling it's time yet, you might want to pull in and give it a little bit more internal time, because starting around September 7th and going until the beginning of November, we are entering the retrograde phase. So just to kind of help you understand the difference here. Imagine if you're on a deserted island and you made a boat and you're setting your boat out to sea, it would make sense for you to wait for the tide to go out. Okay, so the direct stars are like the tide going out, where everything is already being pushed out. So you'll have to paddle less for your launches, there's just more of a clear direction. And so when the tide comes in, if you're trying to paddle against the tide by you trying to go out and the tide coming in, your projects aren't going to launch as easily. It's going to be harder work. You're not going to get as far as you would have. And so it's basically time to go inward and backward. And that is most of September and pretty much most of October as well. So there are many opportunities and must-knows about the Mercury retrograde time that are not often discussed. So I want to mention those as well. One of my favorite must-knows about Mercury retrograde time that is this September story is to free flow with no agenda. One of the wonderful opportunities that the retrograde gives us is to not schedule so much. And if we do schedule so much, a lot of those things are going to wind up being canceled or called into question anyway. So the more you sort of make tentative plans, don't make any strong commitments, tell people maybe pencil you in, or just say no to things that are coming up, the more you can leave room for last minute magic. And that is the theme of the month, to make room for last minute magic. Because the less scheduled you are, then when something comes up out of the blue for you to go do, or a person you can talk to for hours that you haven't gotten to, but then you would have had that engagement you'd had to run to, those are the types of things that come in the retrograde. And they're beautiful, just surprise, last minute, social or harmonious or intimate, or just really magical moments that can fill this space when you're not trying to schedule too much. It also can be really great for travel. People sometimes get concerned about travel in Mercury retrograde because it is true. There are changes to plans, gate changes, there are some frustrations. But in general, travel is very well supported during the retrograde, okay? And the more you can be flexible in your timing and your flow, the more that's going to flow for you. Another must know about this month, because of the retrograde, is that reorganizing and clearing clutter and just dealing with the projects that you have that have built up piles of things, wrapping up unfinished business, is very well indicated. This energy is also really great for staycations too, and anything where you're like indulging in your hobbies or, just fun stuff. Also, sometimes we see in the retrograde, and you might see happen this month in October, is that past efforts can be beautifully rewarded, or key people from your past can play into something that you're working on currently. So if you have a nudge to talk to somebody or call someone on a business card you have, or get back in touch with an old friend, those are usually well rewarded, those efforts. Something else I love about this time is it's wonderful for studying and learning and researching. So if you have a research project, or if you've been wanting to take a class, again, kind of along those hobbies, that type of thing, or something that you're interested in, or if you're interested in expanding your career and you've been having to take maybe CEUs or getting into a different type of work, this is a wonderful time for study. And there are 3 things to consider when you take on a study program or anything in the retrograde. Okay, so here are my 3 checklists, and you can see more of these checklists. I have really great retrograde checklists to help you make your decisions during those times in my book Planetology, which you can get everywhere. But I'll give you a couple of tidbits here. The first is, if it's low stakes, something that comes to you in Mercury retrograde, if it's low stakes, meaning it's not that consequential either way, like it doesn't cost that much, or you're not investing that much energy in it, then those are kind of just no-brainers. If you're drawn to it, you can do it, it's low stakes. If it's flexible, like let's say it's a more expensive program or a more expensive something, but it's flexible, meaning you can study at your own pace, or you have a long time to finish the curriculum, or you own the curriculum once you buy it and you can get to it when you want to. Those kind of study programs are perfect during the retrograde. And if it's short term is another guideline that we use. Now, if something is flexible but not short term, that's totally fine. Like let's say it's a year course, that's not necessarily short term, but it's go at your own pace, so that's flexible. So as long as you have one of the check marks there, if it's low stakes, short term, or flexible, then those are the types of things that are really well supported in the retrograde. So keep that in mind, because if you're trying to do something permanent, long term, long contracts, anything having to do with a long commitment where you're committing to something that doesn't have flexibility, like a long lease or a big move where you're taking everything and, not having any flexibility, like with month to month or anything like that. Those are the kind of things that you might want to question when you are making a commitment then. Something else I really love that's a major must know about this time is the retrograde helps us to be really right here, right now, in this moment, because it doesn't support planning. You don't always have clarity about what you want to do or what you'll be able to do. So trying to plan during the retrograde or trying to plan for beyond the retrograde while in the retrograde is not usually very well indicated. So that cuts out a lot of the strategy and the planning and the distractions that we have in life. And it's like a beautiful little reset to help us just kind of work with things that are right in front of us. Okay, so that's a wonderful thing that goes on. So just in general, remember, schedule yourself light to leave room for the last minute magic. Okay, some other major must-knows. One is that September is another rest month between the eclipse cycles. Once we get into October, we're actually in eclipse season again, because we have an eclipse in November, an eclipse in December, and the eclipse season starts about 4 to 6 weeks before the eclipse, and that puts us right at the beginning of October. So those changes, the drama, the anxiety, the life-changing trajectories that just come out of the blue, the big goodbyes, the big hellos, all of those things are going to start to get active again in October, November, and December. But September, we have another rest month here in between those cycles, where we can kind of just acclimate to the changes that happened in May, June, and July still. And so that is a major must know as well. Okay, so let's talk about, okay, so I've had many requests for a return for the charts, the visuals, and I can't do it all the time. It's been a while since I've been able to do it, but I saw an opportunity to be able to fit them in. So in this set of videos, we're going to have the chart, okay? So let's talk about some more must-knows with the help of the visual aid. Now, I'm starting out with the early degree chart, which is basically the September born Libras, but the things that I'm talking about are true for all Libras unless I otherwise differentiate out. And if I otherwise differentiate out, I'll show you the middle and late degree charts. Okay, so just to be clear here, an early degree person is September or 0 to 9 degrees. The middle degrees are like October 1st through 10th or so, or 10 to 19 degrees. And the late degree people are around October 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. Okay, so now let's see, the first major must know is that we still have a lot of Virgo energy this month. So the Virgo energy is going to be really good for studying and for concentrating and for getting projects done. And again, remember, even though we're using the early chart, what I'm saying now is true for everybody. This gives you great powers of perseverance. This can help you to bust through tasks that you've been avoiding. And this is still a very good time, I talked about this last month, of just making a list of things that you've been avoiding that you have to do, especially ones that require concentration, and just do one a week this month or something, you know? So you can use the energies really well this way. Now, something else to note about the Virgo energies is that when the planets get in Virgo, that's the sign before Libra. That is what happens before the birthdays, okay? So the sun, here's the sun. When the sun gets back to this point here in the chart, that's your Libra placement. That's your sun, your moon, your rising Libra, whatever your Libra placement is. When the sun gets back to that part, it's moving over this line. And just to actually give you a little bit of background about what the heck we're looking at here. I know charts can be kind of scary, but they don't have to be. So basically, when you look at a chart, this line here that cuts the chart in half is the horizon line in the sky. And this is really, really cool. Some people studying astrology for a long time don't even know this, and it clicks on a lot of lights. So let's say we're here on, this chart is for September 1st at 9:05 a.m. in Sarasota, Florida, okay? If somebody were looking out at the sky at that time, they would see the moon up there at the zenith of the sky. When people say astrology charts are a map, they are actually a map. Like, they literally orient you. This is the horizon line. This is the east. This is the west. If this is, and whatever, so anything that you see basically up here are planets that you'd be able to see either with a naked eye or a telescope. Okay, so you can see, like, at 9:05 a.m., the sun has recently crossed the horizon. Then, when it goes to sunset, the sun will be here and it will duck under. All of these planets are ones that are below the horizon line. So just thought I'd give you that little quick orientation about charts, because it is literally a map and a snapshot of the sky at a given time. And the horizon line shows us the perspective that we're looking through. That's why that's why I say to watch for your sun sign and your rising sign, and, you know, if you want to go in deeper into other ones, because what changes in those charts is the horizon line. So if your sun is in Libra, we're putting the sun on the ascendant. But if you are looking at your natal chart is not going to match up here, because your ascendant is going to be on the ascendant, which is going to change everything. And that's going to be another view that's equally true at the same time. Okay, so now back to this. So when the sun crosses over here, that's going to be the birthday, that's going to be the sun, you know, crossing over whatever placement, and it's a time of rebirth. So then the energies will get here, and this will be all about rebirth and renewal. And those of you who are September born will experience that in September. Those of you who are October born will experience that in October. So what that means is that before all of that rebirth and renewal and all of that, this 12th house gets crowded and the sun gets in the 12th house. And when that happens, it's like a spotlight for everything that you don't want, everything that's scary, all of your old patterns, you know, your belief systems that are causing you grief. All of that comes into the forefront. So a lot of times people will get anxious before their birthdays and they'll get whacked out and think, oh God, another year. And they think that it's because they're getting older. And that part of that could be true, but what's more true is that the sun is putting a spotlight in the attic of your being, and it's showing you everything yucky that you have a chance to clear out, to wish away on your birthday. That's where the birthday wishes come. The universe is exceptionally aligned to your desires on your birthday. That's where birthday wishes come from. They're astrological. Okay, so this 12th house is going to be crowded for the early degree. It's going to be crowded for the middle degree. It's going to be crowded for the late degree. But you can see the later we get, let's look at the sun. So starting right from the beginning of the month, see where the sun is? It's very clearly in the 12th house. That's for the September born. For the October born, the sun's, you know, imminently moving in there, but it's not quite there yet. And for the late degree, it's way back here. So that's showing you how it's staggered, okay? And all of that it's always staggered in a Placidus chart for the later degree placements. That's why the visuals help for you to see that the things that some of you are working with right at the beginning of a month take a little time for the rest of you to start working with. So this thing about the fears and the anxieties and all of that, that's going to be a potential constant for all of you because the 12th house is full either way with some planets, regardless of, you know, Venus and Mercury there. There's Mercury and Mars. And obviously there's a bunch there. But the actual sun's movement there doesn't happen for a few more weeks for the later degree people. Okay, so it's time to face your fears, and it's time to see the things that you don't want so you can more clearly see what you do want, so that you can use your powers of wishing and manifestation to create the life of your dreams. Now, if Libra is not your sun and you're not having your birthday, then you can still set intentions at the time and in the period where the sun is crossing over your point, whatever your Libra point is, and your intentions will also be very well received. Okay, so the next thing to note, and again we're using the early chart, but again we're talking about everybody unless I otherwise differentiate out. The planets are moving through Libra, so that means that they're speaking your language, and that's always very exciting. So you're going to get a kiss from Mercury, which rules communication and, you know, expression, self-expression, and interacting with other people and movements and mobility. You've got a kiss from Venus. Now you can see it's already at 19 degrees starting at the beginning of September. So that means that pretty much the first half of the sign, you all will have gotten your Venus kiss in August. And then the second half of the sign will get the Venus kiss in September, but you're all getting it over that period of time. And a Venus kiss is amazing. I know many of you who have watched my reports before, you know about my Grandma Marge. I always think of my Grandma Marge when I see Venus and Venus transits because she reminds me of the epitome of what Venus brings. So Venus rules love, money, comfort, sustenance, and so wherever Venus is, you can imagine that my grandmother Marge is there with her meatball, vegan if it has to be, popping a meatball in my mouth, right? Giving me some money, telling me how great I am, hugging me, bringing me into her comfy house. And that's what Venus is about. So whenever you have Venus giving you a kiss, it can add that boost to harmony. And in this case, when Venus is in the first house, people are also more susceptible to your persuasions. So if you're trying to convince somebody of something, if you're trying to take pictures for your work or marketing, something like that, your appearance will be more magnetic, your energies will be more persuasive, and so you've got that going on. And so that's true right from the beginning of the month for the September born, and also for the we'll say the first week or so of the sign. So we'll say like October 1st through 7th. That's also true for you all. And it's going to take a few weeks into September for those of you who are like after the first week of October, and, you know, we'll say like 14 degrees through the rest of the sign. A couple of weeks in, Venus will be there for you too. So you'll start to have those powers of persuasion and magnetism increased for you as well. Okay, so let's see. Something else that's a must know that's fun that we can look at here is that as the planets, okay, again, I'm going to go back to this first chart, but if there's something different, we'll look at all the charts. We have a lot of trine action with outer planets this month. Okay, so this Sun and Mars are going to come and trine Pluto. Now, for all of you, Pluto is going to be flavoring the fourth house. A trine is the most favorable aspect in all of astrology. And so as the Sun, which brings warmth, as Mars, which brings action, makes a kiss to Pluto, the planet of transformation, in your house of home and family, then this can bring beautiful advancement in those arenas. Real estate matters, work from home matters, if you're trying to have a baby, something with relationships with you and your family, housing, things like that. So you can see, and this is fun to watch, notice how Pluto, let's watch it, that's the early degree, that's the middle degree, here it is, still in the fourth house. Late degree people, it does start to pop in to the third house, but see how it's so close to the line? This line doesn't really exist. So if something is right next to it, I read it in both places. So that's why I said all of you will have that blessing in the fourth house. But those of you in the later degree spectrum, so we'll say 24 or so degrees on, or like October 16th and on, you all might have some extra flavor here too in the mobility house. So your cars, your transportation, your devices, your communication projects, writing projects might get some extra boosts there. Okay, so let's look at some other stuff here. Besides there being trines with Pluto, there are also going to be trines with Saturn. Okay, so Mercury is going to come and kiss Saturn, and then Jupiter. Venus is going to come and kiss Jupiter. And so you can see for the early degree placements, these blessings are also bringing yumminess into your fifth house. Now, we'll talk about what that means in a second. I just want to show you the difference for everyone else. Now, notice how, remember, early degree is the 0 to 9 degrees or September. Now, as we move through, once you get into the October born, the Saturn trine is going to be back in the fourth house. So if you are an October born, the Saturn goodies, the blessings, are going to come in your home and family again. Okay, so multiple layers here. And Saturn brings long-term things, hard worked for, sometimes a lifetime worth of work can bring things in. And so some long-term blessings are coming for the October born into the home and family, in addition to those Plutonian blessings. And this is the same for the late degree, okay? So that's all October born is middle and late. Now, for those of you who are in the early, and we've got your Saturn influencing in the fifth house, the Saturn trines that's the children house. Now, children can factor into the fourth house because they are part of the family, but the fifth house is specifically children. And something else that's a little differentiated for the September born is that fifth house is also the house of true love. Okay, so true love, romance, creative projects. So you might get some long-term boosts or blessings there. Something having to do with your bucket list, something you've always wanted to do could come in. And you can see Jupiter is supporting that same energy for you all in that September born 0 to 9 time frame, whereas the Jupiter blessings, okay, so that's the same for about, say, the first 10 days of October. The Jupiter blessings will also come in that fifth house of true love and children and creativity. And then once you get into like October 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees, those Jupiter blessings can be right here back in that home and family. But because it's on the line here of the fifth house, everyone in the Libra spectrum has some chance to get at least one of the outer planet kisses or more in that romance and creativity and leadership and bringing your hobbies into, the limelight or into something as a paid experience as your profession. So The last thing I want to point out on the chart here is just for us to talk about Jupiter, because you can really see how things change in a Placidus chart with these outer planets when you do them in succession like this. So Jupiter rules the 5th house of the Libra chart in general. But so you see for this year, Jupiter's been working your 5th house. And I talked about this last month, that in general, Jupiter's working to bring your true love in, enhance your current relationship, bring your dreams with children to life, do your, work your creative projects, help you get more in the visible scope of your work. And that's true for all Libra placements. But check out what happens as we go later. Okay, Jupiter really drops back for you all in the first 10 days of October, 10 to 19 degrees. And then all the way here, okay, so now when we're in the late degree spectrum, there is influence in that 5th house. That is true. But you still are working the 4th house as well, and you still have a long way to go in the 5th house for your late degree. So this is what I'm going to suggest. If you are a September born, or 0 to 9 degrees, or a middle degree, well, actually for everybody, all Libras, watch my video called Jupiter in Aquarius for Libra, okay? And that's going to speak to what the heck Jupiter is doing in your 5th house. And remember, since Jupiter is moving through a fellow air sign, as is Saturn, by the way, those outer planets are making trines to your placement. But in that video, I go through and give you a timeline of all the dates that you'll have your kisses. All of the Libras will have their kisses from Jupiter. And what kinds of kisses, more details of what those kisses can be, okay? So it's a very in-depth video, drills right down to the date. Okay, so every Libra watch Jupiter in Aquarius for Libra. You can search for that organically, or go to Annie Botticelli, my homepage, and see my Jupiter playlist. Now, if you are a later degree person, we'll say October 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees, I also recommend that you watch my Jupiter in Aquarius for Scorpio, because that's going to talk about this Jupiter still in the 4th house. Okay, that's why I'm always saying, the late degree friends, you have the spirit of what's going on for everyone else too. But that later chart, that Scorpio chart, is going to pick up pieces that you would otherwise miss if you were just focusing on the Libra placements. All right, so a couple of last things here. We do have way more salty aspects than sweet ones this month, and that is going to mean road bumps, okay? So these are nuisance aspects like we talked about last month. They're kind of like you're flowing down a residential road, and even if you're going slowly, which is good, we want to do that in residential neighborhoods, but it's like a speed bump, and then a speed bump, and then a speed bump, and you can't really get going very well without a speed bump. And that's what this month is going to be like. So it's going to bring everything, again, like just right around you, your home, your appliances might need attention sometimes. Mercury retrograde brings communication breakdowns, or device or appliance breakdowns, or vehicle breakdowns and things like that. So that's why it's the universe is saying, stop planning ahead and just deal with all of these things that are right around you to deal with at this time. So that's definitely where the energy wants to be. But you can have a really, really, really great month. Just know that time for things to be called into question, plans, things that seemed set, Mercury retrograde can throw things all in a tizzy, and things that you thought were going to happen, they might still happen, but it's just a time of confusion. So if you're confused in September and October, then there's a very good chance that as the energies get towards the end of October and into November, you'll get your clarity back, you can make your decisions, you can, do your planning again, and that's going to be the flow of the month of September. Definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com, because I give you all the sweet dates, all the salty dates, all the aspects of the month, what they are, what you can expect from them, delivered into your inbox 1 month early. Okay, so I've given you lots of information about the energies at work and play this month to help you make the most of the potentials. If you'd like even more information, go to anniehelpsyou.com. That is the interface for all of the free goodies that I make for you each month. Also, if you would like to be an astrologer as your profession, if you're a homeschooling parent, if you want to stay working from home, if you want to make your own hours and earn money from your love for astrology, I can help you do that. Check out my Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course at lumelife.com, L-U-M-E, life.com. This course is great for you even if you don't want to do this work as your profession. If you just want to help yourself, your own self-development, help your family and friends, you can learn everything you need to know in that course at lumelife.com. Also, I have lots of free courses at that site, so you can check out all of more free goodies there. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.